You think carrying a ball makes you special? You think the rules don't apply to you? Jessica Hartwell's voice cut through the cabin like a blade, her fingers already digging into the 9-year-old boy's arm before anyone could process what was happening. Tyler Morrison hadn't even finished standing when she yanked him sideways, his small frame no match for her grip. The basketball slipped from his hands. He reached for it instinctively, his body twisting in the narrow aisle. Then came the sound that would haunt everyone in that cabin, the sharp crack that made passengers gasp, and a child's scream that no one would forget. Jessica stepped back, her face flushed. He was blocking the aisle. This is his fault. But as Tyler lay crumpled on the floor, his leg bent at an angle it should never bend, one thought screamed through the chaos: someone needed to call his father. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. This story needs to travel far and wide. Subscribe to this channel and stay until the very end, because what happens when Tyler's father arrives 15 minutes later will change everything you think you know about justice, silence, and the price of looking away. Now, let's go back to where it really started. Tyler Morrison stood at Gate 17 in Newark Liberty International Airport, his small fingers wrapped around the handle of his rolling backpack, the other hand clutching a basketball like it was made of gold, because to him it was. The leather was worn smooth in places, scuffed in others, and across one panel, faded but still visible, was a signature: to my grandson. Shoot for the stars. Love, Grandpa Joe. Grandpa Joe had been gone for 8 months. Cancer, fast and merciless. The ball was all Tyler had left of their Sunday afternoon games, of the man who'd taught him that missing a shot wasn't failure, it was just practice for the next one. Flight 814 to Los Angeles is now boarding all passengers. The gate agent announced, her voice pleasant but mechanical. Tyler looked down at his boarding pass. Zone 3, seat 24F, window seat. He'd specifically asked his dad for window. Marcus had smiled when he booked it, ruffling Tyler's hair. Window seat for my Explorer. You watch the clouds for me, okay? Tyler had nodded seriously. I'll take pictures. Now standing alone in the boarding area, Tyler felt the weight of being 9 years old and flying solo for the first time. His dad had walked him all the way to security, kneeling down to eye level before the TSA checkpoint. You remember what we talked about? Marcus had asked. Stay calm, be polite, follow instructions. If something feels wrong, find a flight attendant or call you right away. That's my boy. Marcus had pulled him close. Grandma's waiting for you in LA. She's going to spoil you rotten. Dad. Yeah, buddy. What if people are mean, like that time at the other airport? Marcus's expression had shifted, something hardening behind his eyes. 6 months ago, they'd been flying together and witnessed a black family get removed from their flight for causing a disturbance. The disturbance, asking why their assigned seats had been given away. Tyler had watched his father watch them, had seen something in his dad's face he'd never seen before: helpless rage. Then you remember who you are, Marcus had said quietly. You're Tyler Morrison. You're smart, you're kind, and you belong anywhere you go. Don't let anyone make you feel small, and if they try... He'd pulled out his phone, tapped the screen twice. You call me, immediately. Now Tyler moved forward with the other passengers in Zone 3, his heart doing that nervous flutter thing it did before basketball games. He could do this. It was just a plane ride. 5 hours. He'd flown plenty of times with his dad. This was just the first time alone. The jet bridge felt longer than usual, his footsteps echoing. When he emerged into the aircraft, the flight attendants stood at the entrance, smiling their professional smiles. Welcome aboard, one of them said, barely looking at him. But another one, a white woman with sharp features and graying hair pulled into a tight bun, looked right at him. Her eyes went from his face to the basketball in his hand, and something flickered across her expression. Not quite a frown, but not quite neutral either. Unaccompanied minor, she asked, her tone clipped. Yes, ma'am, Tyler said politely, just like his dad taught him. Seat 24F. That ball needs to be gate checked, she said immediately. Tyler's stomach dropped. I was told I could carry it on. My dad asked at check-in and they said, I'm telling you now it needs to be gate-checked. Overhead bins are for regulation-sized carry-ons. She crossed her arms. Tyler looked down at the basketball. It wasn't that big. He'd seen people board with shopping bags bigger than this. It's special, he said quietly. It was my grandfather's. Could I maybe just hold it in my lap? The woman whose name tag read Jessica Hartwell stared at him for a long moment. Company policy. I'll have it waiting for you when you deplane in Los Angeles. Tyler felt his throat get tight. The thought of letting this ball out of his sight of trusting strangers with the last piece of his grandfather made his chest hurt. But he also knew what his dad would say. Don't make a scene. Be polite. Follow the rules. Okay, Tyler whispered. Good. Now find your seat. You're holding up the line. Tyler moved down the aisle, his backpack bumping against seats, the basketball feeling heavier with each step. When he reached row 24, he tucked his backpack under the seat in front of him and placed the basketball carefully in the overhead bin right above his seat where he could see it. He settled into 24F, buckled his seatbelt, and pulled out his phone. His dad had gotten him a basic smartphone specifically for this trip, emergency contact only. Tyler opened the text thread. Made it to my seat. Miss you already. The response came within seconds. Miss you too, buddy. Proud of you. Text me when you land. Love you. Love you too, Dad. Tyler put the phone in airplane mode and looked out the window. The tarmac was busy luggage carts zooming around workers in neon vests directing planes. He pulled out the small camera his dad had lent him and snapped a photo. Around him, passengers filed in stuffing bags into overhead bins, settling into seats, the usual pre-flight chaos. Tyler stayed quiet, making himself small, polite, invisible. Then he heard the voice again, Jessica Hartwell's voice. Excuse me, you need to move that. Tyler looked up. Jessica was standing in the aisle near row 20, speaking to a young black woman trying to put a small suitcase in the overhead bin. It fits, the woman said, confused. That bin is reserved for first-class passenger overflow, Jessica said firmly. But there's no sign, and the other flight attendant said, I'm saying it now. Check it at the gate or find space further back. The woman's face tightened, but she pulled her suitcase down and walked toward the back of the plane, passing Tyler's row. Their eyes met briefly, and Tyler saw something in her expression, exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion, something deeper. Tyler turned back to the window. 30 minutes passed, the plane filled, boarding completed. The captain's voice came over the intercom, pleasant and routine, talking about flight time and weather in Los Angeles. Then came the announcement Tyler had been dreading. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an oversold flight today. We're looking for volunteers to take a later flight in exchange for a travel voucher. Murmurs rippled through the cabin. No one volunteered. We need 2 volunteers, the gate agent's voice said, less friendly now. More murmurs. Still, no volunteers. Tyler looked up at the overhead bin where his basketball sat. Something felt wrong. That feeling his dad had asked about. The one where your stomach twists and you're not sure why. Jessica Hartwell walked past his row again this time, with a tablet in her hand, scanning seat numbers. When she reached row 24, she stopped. Her eyes went from the tablet to Tyler to the overhead bin directly above him. Is that basketball yours? She asked. Yes, ma'am. I told you to gate check it. You said overhead bins were for regulation carry-ons. I put it in the overhead bin like you said. Jessica's jaw tightened. Don't get smart with me. Tyler's heart started pounding. He wasn't being smart. He was just explaining. I'm sorry, I didn't mean... Stand up. What? Stand up now. Tyler unbuckled his seatbelt and stood his legs shaky. He was small for 9, and standing in the aisle, he barely reached Jessica's shoulder. That ball is a safety hazard, Jessica said, her voice loud enough that passengers in nearby rows turned to look. I'm going to need you to gate check it immediately. But you said the bins were fine. Are you arguing with me? No, ma'am, because if you can't follow simple instructions, I'm going to have to ask you to deplane and take a later flight. Tyler's breath caught. Deplane. His grandma was waiting. His dad had arranged everything. He'd done everything right. "Please, I'll check it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to—" Jessica reached up and opened the overhead bin. The basketball sat right on top. She grabbed it roughly and pulled it down. "This needs to go back to the gate." "I can take it," Tyler said, quickly reaching for the ball. Jessica held it away from him. "You'll stay right here. I'll have a gate agent handle it." "But that's my grandfather's ball. He died. That's all I have from him. Please, I need to—" "Then you should have checked it properly when I told you to the first time." Something in Tyler snapped, not into anger, but into desperation. He reached for the ball again, not aggressively, just reaching, trying to take back the one thing that mattered. "Give it back," he said, his voice cracking. Jessica jerked the ball away from him, and in that motion her other hand shot out and grabbed Tyler's arm. Not gently, not carefully, hard. Her fingers dug into his bicep, yanking him to the side. "You think carrying a ball makes you special? You think the rules don't apply to you?" Tyler's world tilted. He tried to pull away, but her grip tightened. His feet tangled, his body twisted. And then he was following the aisle. Too narrow, the seats too close, his leg catching on the armrest of 24E, his ankle bending wrong, his knee twisting his whole body, slamming down onto the floor. The crack was audible, sharp, final. Tyler screamed. Pain exploded through his leg, white-hot and consuming. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just pain and the sound of his own voice, high and broken. Jessica let go immediately, stepping back, her face pale. "He was blocking the aisle. This is his fault." Passengers shot out of their seats. Someone yelled for help. Another person was already pressing the call button frantically. "Oh my God," a woman gasped. "Did you see that? She grabbed him. Someone call medical." Tyler lay on the floor of the aisle, his leg bent beneath him at an angle that made people turn away. Tears streamed down his face, but he wasn't crying from just the pain. He was crying because he'd lost his grandfather's ball. He was crying because he'd done everything right and it still went wrong. He was crying because he was 9 years old, alone and broken. A man with kind eyes, maybe 40, knelt beside him carefully. "Hey, buddy, don't move, okay? We're getting help." "My ball," Tyler gasped. "Where's my ball?" The man looked around and spotted it near row 23 where it had rolled. He retrieved it carefully and placed it in Tyler's hands. "Right here, you've got it. Just hold on, okay?" Another passenger, a woman in scrubs, pushed through the small crowd. "I'm a nurse. Let me see." She knelt on Tyler's other side, her hands gentle as she assessed his leg without moving it. Her face tightened. "Possible fracture. We need to immobilize this before we move him." Jessica stood frozen near the galley, her hands shaking. Another flight attendant, younger brunette, hurried over. "What happened?" "He was being difficult," Jessica said, her voice defensive. "He wouldn't follow instructions, and he fell." "She grabbed him," someone shouted from row 22. "I saw the whole thing. She yanked his arm." "That woman assaulted a child." The brunette flight attendant looked from Jessica to Tyler, her expression shifting from confusion to horror. She pulled out her radio. "Gate 17, this is Flight 844. We need medical immediately. Child passenger, possible leg fracture." The captain's voice came through the cabin speakers, no longer pleasant. "This is your captain. We have a medical situation. Paramedics are on their way. Please remain in your seats." Tyler closed his eyes, clutching the basketball to his chest, trying to breathe through the pain. He could hear Jessica talking, defending herself, her voice high and strained. He could hear other passengers arguing with her, demanding answers. But all Tyler could think about was his dad who had told him, "If something feels wrong, call me immediately." The nurse was still beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Tyler," he whispered. "Tyler, I'm Angela. You're doing so good. Help is coming. Can someone—" He gasped as pain shot through his leg again. "Can someone call my dad?" "Absolutely. What's his number?" Tyler recited it from memory, the same way he'd memorized his address, his grandma's address, his dad's work extension. Angela pulled out her phone and dialed. It rang. Once. Twice. "This is Marcus Morrison." Angela's voice was calm but firm. "Mr. Morrison, my name is Angela Rodriguez. I'm a nurse, and I'm with your son Tyler on Flight 814 at Newark Airport. There's been an incident. Tyler's been injured and... What happened? Marcus's voice cut through sharp as a knife. Where is he? Is he okay? He has what appears to be a fractured leg. Paramedics are on their way. He's conscious and alert. He asked me to call you. Let me talk to him. Angela held the phone to Tyler's ear. Dad? Tyler's voice broke. I'm here, buddy. I'm right here. Marcus's voice was steady, but Tyler could hear something underneath something that sounded like his dad was running. Tell me what hurts. My leg. Dad, she grabbed me and I fell, and it really hurts, and I tried to be good, but she took Grandpa's ball and I just wanted it back and... Stop. Breathe. You didn't do anything wrong, you hear me? Nothing, I'm coming. I'm getting in my car right now. I'm coming. Okay, Tyler whispered. Tyler, I need you to be brave for 15 more minutes. Can you do that? Yeah. That's my boy. Don't let go of that ball. And Tyler, yeah. This is not over. Not by a long shot. The phone went back to Angela. Tyler could hear his dad's voice clipped and controlled, asking Angela questions, getting information, making arrangements. Then the call ended. Paramedics arrived 7 minutes later. They moved efficiently, carefully stabilizing Tyler's leg with a splint, asking him questions about pain levels, checking his vitals. The plane was evacuated around him, passengers filing past some, stopping to touch his shoulder to tell him they saw what happened, that it wasn't his fault. One man, older white, with gray hair and an expensive-looking suit, paused longer than the others. He knelt down to Tyler's eye level. Son, my name is Robert Sullivan. I'm a retired judge and I saw everything that just happened. I'm going to make sure people know the truth. Okay. Tyler just nodded, too exhausted to speak. As they loaded Tyler onto the stretcher, Jessica Hartwell was being escorted off the plane by airport security. She kept trying to explain, her voice getting higher, more desperate. He was blocking the aisle. I barely touched him. He fell on his own. This is ridiculous. But the gate supervisor, a black woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression, wasn't listening. Her name tag read, Keisha Williams, and she was holding a tablet, already reviewing security footage. Ma'am, I need you to come with me to the office, Keisha said firmly. I've been with this airline for 22 years. 22 years I know protocol. I followed... The boy has a fractured leg, and multiple witnesses say you used excessive force. We'll review the footage and get statements. Until then, you're suspended from active duty. Jessica's face went white. Suspended. This is insane. I didn't do anything wrong. But Keisha was already walking away, her phone to her ear, speaking to someone in corporate. Tyler caught fragments as they wheeled him past. Unaccompanied minor. Excessive force. Yes, I have it on video. Multiple witnesses. No, ma'am, this is bad. Really bad. The ambulance was waiting at the gate entrance. As they loaded Tyler inside, Angela climbed in with him. You don't have to come, Tyler said quietly. I know, but I'm not leaving you alone. As the doors closed, Tyler looked down at the basketball still clutched in his hands. The leather was cool under his palms. He traced his grandfather's signature with one finger. Shoot for the stars, he whispered. But right now, Tyler would settle for just surviving the landing. Marcus Morrison's Mercedes screeched into the emergency bay at Newark Liberty International Airport, ignoring the no parking signs, the security warnings, everything. He was out of the car before the engine stopped, his suit jacket flapping behind him, his executive badge from Horizon Airways clipped to his belt, forgotten in his urgency. He'd made the 30-minute drive in 15. He didn't remember most of it, just Angela's voice on the phone, Tyler's broken whisper, and the white-hot rage that had consumed him the moment he understood what happened. His son, his 9-year-old son, hurt by someone who was supposed to keep him safe. At the security checkpoint, Marcus flashed his ID. The TSA agent started to say something about procedures, but something in Marcus's face made him step aside. Marcus ran. Gate 17 was chaos when he arrived. Passengers milled around, some still on their phones, others arguing with gate agents. Police officers were taking statements. And in the center of it all, being escorted toward an airport office, was a white woman in a flight attendant uniform, still protesting her innocence. Marcus saw red. But he didn't move toward her. Not yet. First, he needed to find his son. Tyler Morrison. he said to the first official-looking person he saw. 9 years old, injured. Where is he? A young gate agent with worried eyes pointed toward the medical bay. They're stabilizing him before transport to the hospital. Are you his father? I'm his father. They're right through there, but sir, there are police who need to... Marcus was already moving. The medical bay was the small room with harsh fluorescent lights and basic emergency equipment. Tyler lay on a stretcher, his legs splinted and elevated, his face tear-stained but calm now. Angela sat beside him, still in her scrubs, still holding his hand. When Tyler saw his dad, his composure shattered. Dad! Marcus was at his side in 3 strides, his hands cradling Tyler's face, checking him over with eyes that had suddenly become medical scanners. I'm here. I'm right here. You're okay. You're going to be okay. It hurts, Tyler whispered. I know, buddy. I know. Marcus looked at Angela. Thank you for staying with him. Of course. Angela stood, giving them space. The paramedics gave him pain medication. They're recommending x-rays at the hospital to confirm the fracture and assess if he needs surgery. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. Then he turned back to Tyler, his voice gentler. Did you do what I taught you? Tyler nodded. I was polite, I followed the rules. But she grabbed me, Dad. I just wanted Grandpa's ball back, and she grabbed me and I fell. I know, Angela told me. And Tyler, yeah, you did everything right. This is not your fault. Do you understand me? Not your fault. Tyler's eyes filled with tears again. Promise. I promise. On Grandpa Joe's memory, I promise. That's when Keisha Williams entered the medical bay, her tablet in hand and a grim expression on her face. She saw Marcus and stopped. Mr. Morrison. Marcus turned and Keisha's eyes widened slightly as she recognized him. Marcus Morrison wasn't just any parent. He was Horizon Airways' chief operations officer, the man responsible for safety protocols, passenger experience, and operational excellence across the entire airline. And right now, one of Horizon's partner airlines, using Horizon's ground crew, had just broken his son's leg. Ms. Williams, Marcus said, his voice dangerously calm, I believe you and I need to have a conversation. Keisha swallowed. Yes, sir. We absolutely do. Not here. Not in front of my son. Marcus looked back at Tyler. They're going to take you to the hospital now for x-rays. Angela's going to ride with you and I'm going to follow right behind. Okay? You're not coming in the ambulance. I need to talk to some people here first, but I'll be at the hospital before they even finish your x-rays. I promise. Tyler nodded, trusting in that way children trust their parents, even when everything else has fallen apart. As the paramedics wheeled Tyler out, Marcus stood his full height, imposing in the small room. He turned to Keisha, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Where's the flight attendant who did this? Being detained by airport security. We have her statement. We have witness statements. We have security footage from the gate. I want to see all of it. Mr. Morrison, there are procedures. I'm aware of procedures. I wrote half of them. I want to see all of it. Now. Keisha hesitated for only a second, then nodded. Follow me. They walked through the terminal, Marcus's footsteps, echoing with purpose. Other Horizon Airways staff members saw him and stepped back, recognizing the storm brewing behind his controlled exterior. In the airport security office, Keisha pulled up the footage on a large monitor. This is from the gate camera. It captures the interior of the aircraft through the door. She pressed play. Marcus watched his son stand up, watched Jessica grab the basketball, watched Tyler reach for it, and then watched Jessica's hand shoot out, grab Tyler's arm, and yank him sideways with force that made Marcus's hands curl into fists. He watched his son fall, heard the crack even through the poor audio quality, heard Tyler scream. The video kept playing, Jessica stepping back, her mouth moving. He was blocking the aisle. This is his fault. Marcus's face remained impassive, but his eyes burned. There are 7 passenger statements, Keisha said quietly. All corroborate the video. She used excessive force. She escalated when she should have de-escalated. She grabbed a minor passenger and directly caused his injury. What's her name? Marcus asked. Jessica Hartwell, 22 years with Mesa Airlines. Clean record up until today. Clean record, Marcus repeated, his voice hollow. Tell me something, Ms. Williams. How many incidents like this happen that don't result in a broken bone? How many times has she grabbed passengers, intimidated them, used her authority as a weapon, and it just didn't leave a mark? Keisha didn't answer. She didn't need to. Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call. It was answered on the first ring. Linda, it's Marcus Morrison. I need to speak with you immediately. No, not tomorrow. Now. Because one of Mesa's flight attendants just broke my son's leg, and I have the video to prove it. He listened for a moment, his expression darkening. I'm not interested in your liability concerns right now. I'm interested in justice. I'll be at the corporate office in 1 hour, and I'm bringing the footage, the witness statements, and my very expensive attorney. Linda, you've known me for 6 years. Have I ever made a threat I didn't keep? Another pause. Good. 1 hour. He hung up and turned back to Keisha. I need copies of everything. Video statements, incident reports, all of it. Mr. Morrison, I can't just... Yes, you can, because I'm not asking as a parent. I'm asking as the COO of your partner Airline, the man who signs off on your operational procedures and crew training programs. I'm asking as the person who's about to determine whether Horizon Airways continues its partnership with Mesa Airlines at all. Keisha stared at him for a long moment, then started downloading files to a USB drive. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I'm sorry this happened to your son. I have a 9-year-old too. I can't imagine. Then make sure it never happens to him, Marcus said, taking the USB drive, or anyone else's child. As Marcus turned to leave, a voice called out from the hallway. Mr. Morrison. He turned to see Robert Sullivan, the retired judge from the plane, standing with airport police. I gave my statement to the officers, Robert said, but I wanted you to know. I'm willing to testify if it comes to that. What I saw today was assault, clear as day, and I won't stay silent about it. Marcus extended his hand, and Robert shook it firmly. Thank you, Marcus said. That means more than you know. I've seen too many people look away, Robert replied. I looked away myself for too many years. Not anymore. That boy deserves justice, and I'll help him get it. Marcus nodded once, then walked away, his stride purposeful and unyielding. He had a son to get to a hospital to reach and a reckoning to deliver, because in 15 minutes, everything had changed. And Jessica Hartwell Mesa Airlines and every person who thought they could break a black child without consequences was about to learn exactly what happens when you hurt the wrong person's son. Marcus arrived at the hospital 18 minutes later, parking illegally again, not caring about the ticket he'd inevitably receive. He walked through the automatic doors of the emergency department with the same purposeful stride, the same controlled fury barely contained beneath his professional exterior. Tyler Morrison, he said to the nurse at the intake desk, 9 years old, transferred from the airport. I'm his father. The nurse checked her computer. Room 7. They're taking x-rays now. You can wait in his room. Thank you. Room 7 was small, sterile, with pale blue curtains and monitors that beeped softly. Angela was still there, standing near the window, her arms crossed, her nurse's instinct not allowing her to leave until a parent arrived. Mr. Morrison, she said, relief evident in her voice. Please call me Marcus. He looked around. Where is he? Radiology 2 floors down. They said 20 minutes. Marcus sank into the plastic chair beside the empty bed, his head dropping into his hands. For the first time since Angela's call, he allowed himself to feel the weight of it all. The fear, the rage, the helplessness. I should have been there, he said quietly. You couldn't have known this would happen. I knew, not this specifically, but I knew something could happen. I've seen it happen. To other black families, to other black kids. And I sent my son out there alone anyway. Angela sat down in the chair across from him. You didn't do this. That flight attendant did. Don't carry her guilt. Marcus looked up at her, his eyes red-rimmed. Do you have children? 2. 13 and 16. Do they fly alone? Angela hesitated. No, not yet. Because you're afraid something like this might happen. Because the world isn't always kind to brown kids traveling alone. But Marcus, you can't protect him from everything. You can only teach him how to survive it. And from what I saw today, you did that. Tyler was calm, polite, respectful. He did everything right. And it didn't matter, Marcus said bitterly. He still ended up with a broken leg. No, it did matter. Because if he'd reacted differently, if he'd yelled or fought back, they'd be calling him aggressive right now. They'd be blaming him even more. His composure is the only reason there's no ambiguity about who was wrong. Marcus knew she was right. He hated that she was right. The door opened and a young doctor entered, Indian American, maybe 30, with tired eyes and a kind smile. "Mr. Morrison, I'm Dr. Patel. I've been treating Tyler." Marcus stood immediately. "How is he?" "Fractured fibula. Clean break, which is good. It should heal well with proper casting and rest. We're setting it now, and then we'll move him to a room for observation overnight. The pain medication is working well, and he's been remarkably brave." "Can I see him?" "They're bringing him back now. Mr. Morrison, I need to ask, how did this injury occur?" Marcus's jaw tightened. A flight attendant grabbed him and yanked his arm hard enough that he fell and twisted his leg. "It's on video. Multiple witnesses. The airline is investigating." Dr. Patel's expression shifted. "I see. I'll need to file a report with the authorities. Injuries caused by an adult to a minor, especially in a commercial setting." "Do what you need to do," Marcus said. "I want everything documented." 5 minutes later, Tyler was wheeled back into the room, his leg now in a bright blue cast from ankle to knee. He looked small in the hospital bed, younger than 9, vulnerable in a way that made Marcus's chest ache. "Hey, Dad," Tyler said quietly. "Hey, buddy." Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle Tyler's leg. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. The medicine makes me sleepy." "That's okay. You can rest." Tyler looked down at his cast. "I picked blue, like Grandpa's favorite color." He would have loved that. "Dad?" "Yeah." "What happens now?" "To the lady who grabbed me." Marcus hesitated. Tyler was 9. He didn't need to know about lawsuits, about corporate meetings, about the systematic dismantling of a career Marcus was about to orchestrate, but he also didn't need to be lied to. "She's going to be held accountable," Marcus said carefully. "What she did was wrong, and wrong actions have consequences." "Is she going to get fired?" "I don't know yet, but she's definitely not going to be a flight attendant on any flight you're on ever again. That I can promise." Tyler nodded slowly. "I don't want her to hurt other kids." "She won't. I'm going to make sure of it." "How?" Marcus smiled grimly. "You remember how I told you I work for the airline? You're in charge of making things safe." "That's right. And part of my job is making sure people who make things unsafe don't get to keep doing it. So tomorrow I'm going to have some very serious conversations with very serious people, and we're going to make changes. Big changes. Changes that will protect kids like you. Because of what happened to me. Because you were brave enough to speak up. Because you called me. Because you held on to Grandpa's ball, even when everything else fell apart." Tyler looked down at the basketball which a nurse had placed on the bedside table. "I didn't let go." "No, you didn't. And I'm not going to let go either." Angela appeared in the doorway. "I'm going to head out. My shift starts in 2 hours, and I should probably shower and change." Marcus stood and extended his hand. "Thank you. For everything. For staying with him, for calling me, for not letting him be alone. I can't repay that." Angela shook his hand. "Just make sure something good comes from this. That's payment enough." "I will. You have my word." After Angela left, Marcus called his mother, Tyler's grandmother, and explained what happened. She was already booking an emergency flight back from Los Angeles. "That baby," she kept saying. "My sweet baby." "He's okay, Mom. He's okay. I'm coming home. I'll be there tomorrow morning." After the call ended, Marcus sat back down beside Tyler's bed. His son was already drifting off the pain medication, pulling him under. Marcus watched him sleep, this small person who'd somehow inherited his sense of justice, his grandfather's quiet strength, and his mother's grace. Tyler's mother, Sarah, had died when Tyler was 4, complications from a surgery that should have been routine. Marcus had been raising Tyler alone ever since, determined to give him everything to protect him from everything. But he couldn't protect him from this. He could only make sure it mattered. Marcus pulled out his laptop and began composing an email. Not to Linda Park, the CEO he'd talked to her face to face. This was to his entire executive team, to every department head, to everyone who had any influence over policy and procedure. Subject: critical safety, failure, immediate action required. Team today. My 9-year-old son sustained a fractured leg due to excessive force used by a Mesa Airlines flight attendant. This incident was unprovoked, unwarranted, and entirely preventable. I have video evidence, multiple witness statements, and a very clear understanding of how our current protocols failed to protect a child passenger. Effective immediately, I am suspending all joint operations with Mesa Airlines pending a full investigation. I am also initiating a comprehensive review of our passenger protection policies with particular focus on unaccompanied minors and vulnerable passengers. We will be launching a task force to develop new training programs, escalation protocols, and accountability measures. This will not be a symbolic gesture. This will be systemic change. I will share more details in tomorrow's emergency meeting, which is now mandatory for all senior staff. 7 a.m. sharp. This ends now, not just for my son, but for every passenger who ever felt unsafe, unheard, or unprotected on our watch. Marcus Morrison, Chief Operations Officer. He hit send. Within minutes, replies started flooding in. Shock, support, questions. But Marcus didn't read them. He'd deal with all of that tomorrow. Tonight, he just sat beside his son's hospital bed, holding Tyler's hand, listening to him breathe, and making silent promises to the memory of his grandfather. Shoot for the stars, the old man had written. Tomorrow, Marcus was going to burn down the system that hurt his son and rebuild something better from the ashes. But tonight, he was just a father keeping watch. And the storm he was about to unleash would shake the aviation industry to its foundation. The hospital room settled into an uneasy quiet, broken only by the rhythmic beeping of monitors and Tyler's soft breathing. Marcus sat in the stiff plastic chair, his laptop balanced on his knees, watching his son sleep, while his mind calculated the next 12 moves like a chess master planning checkmate. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant Jennifer. Linda Park wants to meet tonight, says it can't wait until morning. Marcus's fingers moved across the screen. Tell her my office. 1 hour. And Jennifer, get our legal team on standby. Already done. Marcus, I'm so sorry about Tyler. Thank you. See you in an hour. He looked up at Tyler, at the blue cast covering his small leg, at the IV taped to his arm, at the basketball sitting on the bedside table like a guardian angel that had failed its one job. Marcus reached over and touched the worn leather tracing, the same signature Tyler had traced 1,000 times. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you today, Joe, Marcus whispered. But I'll protect every kid who comes after him. That's a promise. A nurse entered, young and efficient, checking Tyler's vitals with practiced hands. She smiled at Marcus. He's doing great. Vitals are strong. He should sleep through the night with the pain medication. Thank you. I need to step out for a few hours. Will someone stay with him? We'll check on him every 30 minutes, but if you'd like, we can arrange for a patient sitter. Please, I don't want him waking up alone. Of course. I'll arrange it now. Marcus stood, leaned over Tyler, and kissed his forehead. I love you, buddy. I'll be back before you wake up. Tyler stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Marcus grabbed his laptop and walked out, his stride shifting from father mode to warrior mode with each step. The drive to Horizon Airways headquarters took 23 minutes. The building stood 30 stories high, glass and steel reflecting the evening sky. Marcus's private parking spot was on the executive level. He pulled in, killed the engine, and sat for a moment, letting the rage he'd been containing all day rise to the surface where he could use it. Then he got out and walked toward the elevator. Jennifer met him at his office door, her arms full of files and her expression grim. Legal is in conference room A. Linda Park arrived 10 minutes ago. She brought her chief legal counsel and VP of operations from Mesa. Good. They'll need witnesses for what's about to happen. Jennifer handed him a folder. "This is everything we have on Jessica Hartwell. Employment history, performance reviews, passenger complaints." Passenger complaints. Marcus stopped walking. 14 in the last 3 years, mostly about aggressive behavior, intimidation tactics, and what passengers described as racial profiling. All were investigated internally by Mesa. All were dismissed as misunderstandings or policy enforcement. Marcus's jaw clenched so hard, Jennifer could hear his teeth grind. 14 complaints. 14. And they kept her on active duty. There's more. 2 complaints involved unaccompanied minors. One was a 12-year-old Latina girl that Hartwell accused of stealing headphones that turned out to be the girl's own property. The other was a 14-year-old black boy that Hartwell insisted was too big for the minor assistance program and tried to force him to navigate the airport alone, even though he had documented anxiety disorder. And Mesa did nothing. They mandated she take a diversity training course, online, self-paced. Marcus closed his eyes and counted to 10, then 20. Then he gave up counting and just let himself feel the white-hot fury that wanted to burn the entire airline industry to the ground. "Get me everything on Mesa's training protocols. I want to know who approved keeping her on staff. I want names, dates, and decision chains." "Already compiled. It's in the conference room." Marcus looked at Jennifer, this woman who'd been his right hand for 5 years, who'd once told him she stayed at Horizon because he was the only executive who treated support staff like people instead of furniture. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Go get them," she replied. Conference Room A was Horizon's largest meeting space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the runway and a table that could seat 20. Tonight only 6 people sat around it, but the tension made it feel crowded. Linda Park stood when Marcus entered. She was 52, Korean-American with steel gray hair and a reputation for being the toughest negotiator in aviation. She'd built Horizon Airways from a regional carrier into a national powerhouse, and she didn't tolerate failure. "Marcus," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Linda." Beside her sat Richard Hayes, Mesa Airlines chief legal counsel, a white man in his 60s with the predatory stillness of a shark. Next to him was Patricia Vance Mesa's VP of Operations, black 40-something, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. Marcus's own legal team occupied the other side, David Chen, general counsel, and Maria Santos, head of employment law. Marcus didn't sit. He stood at the head of the table and opened his laptop. "Before we begin, I want everyone to understand something. This is not a negotiation. This is me telling you what's going to happen and you deciding whether to cooperate or be destroyed in the process." Richard Hayes leaned forward. "Mr. Morrison, I understand you're upset, but threatening language isn't going to— My 9-year-old son has a fractured leg because one of your flight attendants assaulted him. I don't think upset quite covers it, Mr. Hayes. Would you like to see the video?" Marcus turned his laptop around and pressed play. The conference room fell silent, except for the audio from the gate camera. They watched Jessica grab Tyler, watched her yank him, watched him fall, heard the crack, heard him scream. Patricia Vance put her hand over her mouth. Linda Park's expression went cold and hard. When the video ended, Marcus spoke again, his voice dangerously calm. "That's assault. Clear, unambiguous, caught on camera. 7 witnesses gave statements corroborating what you just saw. One of them is a retired federal judge who's already volunteered to testify if this goes to court." "Mr. Morrison," Patricia said carefully, "we are deeply sorry about what happened to your son. Jessica Hartwell has been suspended pending our investigation, and we will take appropriate action based on— Suspended, not fired, pending investigation, appropriate action." Marcus's voice cut through her corporate speak like a blade. "Let me tell you what appropriate action looks like, Ms. Vance. It looks like Jessica Hartwell never working in aviation again. It looks like Mesa Airlines conducting a full audit of every employee who's had multiple complaints. It looks like systemic change, not a sacrificial lamb." Richard Hayes cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Mesa Airlines has its own internal processes for handling employee misconduct. We don't respond well to external pressure to circumvent due process." Marcus smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. With all due respect, Mr. Hayes, I don't give a damn about your internal processes, because here's what I know. He pulled out Jennifer's folder and dropped it on the table with a heavy thud. Jessica Hartwell had 14 complaints in 3 years. 14. 2 involved unaccompanied minors. All were dismissed after minimal investigation. Your internal processes are designed to protect bad employees, not passengers. Patricia reached for the folder, flipping through it, her expression shifting from defensive to horrified. I wasn't aware of all of these, she said quietly. Then that's a failure of your operations oversight, Marcus replied. But it's not the biggest failure. The biggest failure is that after 14 complaints, you gave her an online diversity course and called it fixed. And today, that decision broke my son's leg. Linda Park finally spoke her voice, cutting through the tension like a gavel. Richard, Patricia, I need you to understand something. Marcus Morrison is not just a father seeking justice for his child, though that would be reason enough. He's also my chief operations officer and the architect of every passenger safety protocol Horizon Airways uses. Protocols that I might add have made us the safest carrier in North America for 3 consecutive years. She leaned forward, her eyes hard. Mesa Airlines operates code-share flights under the Horizon name. Your crews represent my brand, and right now, you've just created a liability nightmare that could cost both our companies millions in settlements and reputation damage. So when Marcus says this isn't a negotiation, believe him, because I'm not negotiating either. Richard Hayes' face flushed. Are you threatening to terminate our partnership? I'm stating a fact. If Mesa cannot demonstrate immediate comprehensive change in how you handle passenger safety and crew accountability, Horizon Airways will not only terminate our code-share agreement, we will make the reasons for that termination very public. That would destroy Mesa's stock value overnight, Richard said. Then I suggest you start caring more about passenger safety than stock value, Linda replied coldly. Marcus opened another file on his laptop. Here's what's going to happen. First, Jessica Hartwell will be terminated immediately, not suspended, terminated. Her flight certification will be flagged, and Mesa will not provide a neutral reference that allows her to move to another airline. Second, every employee who dismissed or minimized complaints against her will undergo formal review. If they protected her negligence, they need to be removed from oversight positions. Patricia was nodding, taking notes. Richard looked like he'd swallowed glass. Marcus continued. Third, Mesa will fund an independent audit of all passenger complaints from the last 5 years, with specific focus on incidents involving minors and passengers of color. That audit will be conducted by a firm of my choosing, and the results will be made public. That's not standard practice, Richard protested. It is now. Fourth, Mesa will partner with Horizon to develop new training protocols focused on de-escalation implicit bias and protection of vulnerable passengers. This won't be an online course. This will be mandatory in-person training with regular recertification. Fifth, Mesa will establish an independent passenger advocacy board with the authority to review complaints and override internal dismissals. Marcus paused, looking at each person in the room. And finally, Mesa Airlines will issue a public apology to my son, to every passenger who witnessed what happened, and to every family who trusts you with their children. Not a corporate press release, a real apology acknowledging failure and committing to change. Silence fell over the conference room. Richard Hayes broke it. This is extortion. No, David Chen said, speaking for the first time. This is a reasonable request for corrective action following a serious incident of employee misconduct. But if you'd prefer, we can let a jury decide what's reasonable. I have a court filing ready to go, civil suit for assault, negligence, and emotional distress. And given Mr. Morrison's position and the video evidence, we'll add a corporate negligence claim against Mesa for failing to address a pattern of dangerous behavior. Discovery in a case like that would be extensive, Maria Santos added. Every complaint, every internal email, every training record, all public, all searchable, all available for journalists to review. Richard Hayes and Patricia Vance exchanged glances. Patricia spoke first. I need to consult with our CEO and board. You have until tomorrow morning, Linda Park said. 8 a.m. We'll reconvene here and you'll provide a written commitment to every item Marcus outlined. If you don't, Horizon Airways will issue a public statement terminating our partnership and explaining why. Your choice." Patricia nodded slowly. Richard Hayes gathered his papers, his hands shaking slightly. As they stood to leave, Marcus spoke one more time. "Ms. Vance, Mr. Hayes, I want you to understand something. This isn't about revenge. This isn't even really about my son, though. He's the reason I'm fighting this hard. This is about the 12-year-old girl Jessica Hartwell accused of theft. This is about the 14-year-old boy she tried to abandon in an airport. This is about every passenger who filed a complaint and was told they were wrong or too sensitive or misunderstanding policy." His voice dropped lower, harder. "Your system failed those people. It failed my son, and I'm going to make damn sure it never fails another child again. Not because I'm powerful, but because I have the receipts, the resources, and the absolute unwillingness to let this go. Are we clear?" Patricia met his eyes. "Crystal clear, Mr. Morrison. And for what it's worth, I'm glad you're not letting it go. Some of us have been trying to change things from the inside for years. Maybe it takes something this terrible for the board to finally listen." She walked out, Richard trailing behind her, like a man headed to his execution. After they left, Linda Park turned to Marcus. "How is Tyler and fractured fibula? He'll heal." But Linda, he was so scared and so calm. He did everything we teach kids to do when they're in trouble. He was polite, he followed rules, he called for help, and it didn't matter. Linda's expression softened. "I have a grandson Tyler's age. If someone hurt him like this, I'd burn the world down." "I'm not burning the world down. I'm building something better on top of the ashes." "I know. That's why I backed you in there. And Marcus, whatever you need, personnel, budget time, it's yours. This is personal for you, but it's principle for me. We build planes that don't crash. We should build systems that don't break children." Marcus nodded, exhaustion suddenly hitting him like a wave. "I need to get back to the hospital." "Go. We'll handle things here." And Marcus, "Yeah, you're a good father. Tyler's lucky to have you." Marcus didn't trust himself to speak, so he just nodded and walked out. The drive back to the hospital was a blur. His phone rang twice, Jennifer, with updates, but he didn't answer. He just drove his mind replaying the video loop, Tyler falling, Tyler screaming, Tyler's small voice, asking if he'd done something wrong. When he reached Tyler's room, the patient sitter, an older woman with kind eyes, looked up from her knitting. "He woke up once," she said softly. "Asked for you. I told him you'd be right back. He went back to sleep." "Thank you." Marcus reclaimed his chair beside Tyler's bed and took his son's hand. Tyler stirred, his eyes fluttering open. "Dad." "Right here, buddy. Did you fix it?" Marcus smiled despite everything. "I'm fixing it. It's going to take time, but yeah, I'm fixing it." "Good." Tyler's eyes started to close again. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, Ty. So much." Tyler drifted back to sleep, and Marcus sat in the dim hospital room, listening to his son breathe, feeling the weight of the day settle on his shoulders like concrete. His phone buzzed, a text from Patricia Vance sent only to him. "Mr. Morrison, I know this doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know I reviewed Jessica Hartwell's file personally tonight. I found 8 complaints that were never escalated to me. 8. Someone in my department buried them. That person will be terminated tomorrow. Your son deserved better. Every child deserves better. Thank you for forcing us to face that." Marcus read the text 3 times, then typed a response. "Make sure it sticks. Make sure it matters. That's all I ask." "I will. You have my word." Marcus set his phone aside and leaned back, closing his eyes. Tomorrow would bring more fights, more meetings, more battles. But tonight, he'd won the first round. And as he sat there in the quiet darkness holding his son's hand, Marcus Morrison made a silent vow. No more children would be Jessica Hartwell's victims. No more families would be told their complaints didn't matter. No more systems would protect bad actors over vulnerable passengers. He would burn down every policy, every procedure, every corporate protection that allowed this to happen. And from those ashes, he would build something better. something worthy of his son's courage, something worthy of his father-in-law's memory, something that would make sure the next 9-year-old black boy who flew alone would land safely with his dignity intact and his grandfather's basketball still in his hands. That was the promise Marcus Morrison made in the darkness of a hospital room at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night in July, and he would spend every day after that keeping it. Morning came too fast and too slow at the same time. Marcus woke with his neck cramped from sleeping in the hospital chair, his hand still holding Tyler's. The sun was just starting to filter through the blinds, painting stripes across the linoleum floor. Tyler was still asleep, his face peaceful in a way that made Marcus's chest ache. The door opened quietly, and a different nurse entered, clipboard in hand. "Good morning, Mr. Morrison. I'm Claire. I'll be taking over Tyler's care for the day shift. How's our brave boy doing?" "He slept through the night. Pain medication seems to be working." Claire checked Tyler's vitals, her movements practiced and gentle. "Dr. Patel will be by around 8 to evaluate whether Tyler can go home today or if we need to keep him another night for observation." "Thank you." Marcus's phone buzzed. "Jennifer, Mace's team arrived early. They're waiting in conference room A. Linda wants you here by 7:30. He looked at his watch. 6:45. He'd have to move fast. Tyler stirred his eyes, opening slowly. "Dad?" "Right here, buddy. How are you feeling?" "My leg hurts, but not as bad as yesterday." "That's good. That's really good. Listen, I have to go to the office for a few hours this morning. Grandma's flight lands at 9, and she'll come straight here. Can you be brave for me until then?" Tyler nodded. Then his face crumpled slightly. "I'm supposed to be at Grandma's house right now. We were going to make cookies." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. "I know, Ty. I know. And I'm so sorry this happened. But you'll make those cookies. Maybe next week when your leg feels better, we'll all fly out together. How's that sound? Promise. Promise. Now what do you want for breakfast?" "I'll tell the nurse before I go." "Pancakes. I'll make sure they know. And Ty, if you need me for anything at all, you call me immediately. My phone will be on the whole time." "Okay, Dad, go fix things." Marcus kissed his son's forehead, grabbed his laptop bag, and headed for the door. As he passed Claire, he stopped. "He wants pancakes for breakfast. And please, if he seems scared or anxious, call me right away." "We'll take good care of him, Mr. Morrison. I promise." The drive to Horizon headquarters felt different this morning. Yesterday, he'd been running on adrenaline and rage. Today, he was running on purpose and coffee, though mostly purpose. The rage was still there, but it had crystallized into something sharper, more focused. When he walked into conference room A at 7:28, the atmosphere was thick enough to cut. Patricia Vance sat on one side of the table looking like she hadn't slept. Richard Hayes was notably absent. In his place sat Thomas Brennan, Mesa Airlines CEO, a man Marcus had met twice at industry conferences and hadn't particularly liked either time. Linda Park sat at the head of the table, her expression unreadable. David Chen and Maria Santos occupied their same seats from last night. And at the far end, someone new, a black woman in her 40s with natural hair and intelligent eyes that tracked Marcus as he entered. "Marcus," Linda said. "This is Dr. Simone Carter. She's a consultant specializing in aviation industry discrimination and passenger protection protocols. I asked her to join us this morning." Dr. Carter stood and extended her hand. "Mr. Morrison, I'm sorry about your son. No parent should have to fight this fight." "But here we are," Marcus said, shaking her hand. Thomas Brennan cleared his throat. "Mr. Morrison, I flew in from Chicago at 5 this morning because this situation demands my immediate attention. I want to start by saying that what happened to your son is unacceptable and does not represent Mesa Airlines' values or standards." Marcus sat down slowly. "Mr. Brennan, with respect, it absolutely represents your standards. Because your standards allowed Jessica Hartwell to abuse passengers for 3 years without consequence. Your standards buried complaints. Your standards prioritized protecting bad employees over protecting vulnerable children. So please don't tell me this doesn't represent Mesa Airlines when the evidence says otherwise." Brennan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "You're right. Our systems failed. They failed your son, and they failed other passengers. That's why I'm here personally to tell you that we accept your terms. All of them. All of them." Brennan pushed a folder across the table. Jessica Hartwell was terminated at 6 a.m. this morning. Her flight certification has been flagged per your request. The employees who dismissed or minimized complaints against her 3 managers and 1 HR representative are under formal review and suspended pending investigation, Patricia added. "I've already contacted the independent auditing firm you recommended, Marcus. They'll begin a comprehensive review of all passenger complaints from the last 5 years next Monday." "What about the training protocols?" Marcus asked. "That's why I'm here," Dr. Carter said. She opened her own laptop and pulled up a presentation. "I've been working with Linda and her team since midnight to develop a framework. We're calling it the Tyler Protocol." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Tyler. His son's name attached to policy that might save other children. Dr. Carter continued. "The Tyler Protocol has 5 core components. First, mandatory de-escalation training for all flight crew, not online modules, but in-person scenarios with actors playing passengers in crisis situations. Second, specific training on recognizing and countering implicit bias, particularly regarding children of color and unaccompanied minors. Third, a new escalation chain that requires supervisor approval before any physical contact with a minor passenger. Fourth, Patricia took over a real-time reporting system where passengers can flag concerns directly to corporate via text message during the flight. Messages go to a dedicated team who can intervene immediately. And fifth, an independent passenger advocacy board with authority to override internal complaint dismissals. The board will have rotating members including parents, child welfare advocates, and civil rights representatives. Marcus looked at Linda. "This is real, not just paper policy. It's real. Horizon is implementing it across all operations, including codeshare partners. Mesa has agreed to adopt it fully, and we're presenting it to the Regional Airline Association next month as a proposed industry standard." Thomas Brennan leaned forward. "Mr. Morrison, I know words don't heal your son's leg or erase what happened, but I want you to know that this isn't just corporate damage control for me. I have grandchildren. The thought that any of them could be treated the way Tyler was treated makes me physically ill. So I'm not just accepting your terms, I'm embracing them, and I'm committing every resource Mesa has to making sure this kind of failure never happens again." Marcus studied Brennan's face, looking for the corporate mask, the calculated sincerity that executives practiced in the mirror. But what he saw looked genuine, looked human. "Actions prove commitment, not words," Marcus said quietly. "I'll be watching to see if this sticks or if it fades once the public attention dies down." "It will stick," Linda Park said firmly, "because I'll be watching too. And if Mesa or any other partner airline backslides, they'll lose their association with Horizon. I built this company on safety and passenger trust. I won't let anyone compromise that." Dr. Carter pulled up another slide. "There's one more component we'd like to propose, Marcus. A scholarship fund for children of color pursuing careers in aviation. Too many kids never see themselves in these spaces because they've never seen anyone who looks like them flying planes or running airlines. We'd like to name it the Morrison Aviation Scholars Program." Marcus felt his eyes burn. He blinked hard. "Tyler would like that. His grandfather too, but only if it's real opportunity, not just PR." "Full scholarships," Dr. Carter confirmed. "Flight school university programs, mentorship internships, everything needed to build careers. Mesa and Horizon are each committing $5 million to start with plans to grow the fund annually." Marcus looked down at his hands. His father-in-law, Joe, had worked 3 jobs to put himself through college, had faced discrimination at every turn, had been told repeatedly that black men didn't belong in professional spaces. And here they were creating opportunities in his name because his great-grandson had been hurt. "He would have loved this," Marcus said quietly. "Joe. He would have loved knowing something good came from something painful." The room fell quiet for a moment, a rare pause where grief and hope occupied the same space. Then Maria Santos spoke up. "We have the public apology drafted. Would you like to review it before it's released?" "Yes, and I want Tyler to approve it too." He's 9, but he's the one who was hurt. He should have a say in how his story is told. Understood, Thomas Brennan said. We'll send it to you by noon. And Mr. Morrison, would you and Tyler be willing to meet with me personally? Not for the cameras, not for PR. Just so I can apologize to him face to face and tell him what we're doing to make sure this doesn't happen to other kids. Marcus hesitated. Part of him wanted to keep Tyler far away from anything related to Mesa Airlines, but another part recognized that letting Tyler see the adults take accountability might help him heal. I'll ask him. If he says no, the answer is no. If he says yes, you'll get 30 minutes and it happens at a time and place of his choosing. Fair enough? Linda Park closed her laptop. If there's nothing else, I think we have a clear path forward. Patricia Thomas, I'll expect weekly updates on implementation. Dr. Carter will serve as an independent monitor to ensure compliance. David Maria draft the termination paperwork for our code share agreement with Mesa contingent on full implementation of these protocols within 90 days. 90 days? Thomas paled. That's aggressive. So was breaking a 9-year-old's leg, Linda replied coldly. You have 90 days to prove you can change your culture or Horizon walks. Non-negotiable. Thomas nodded slowly. Understood. As the meeting broke up, Dr. Carter approached Marcus privately. Can I speak with you for a moment? Of course. They stepped out into the hallway. Dr. Carter's expression shifted from professional to personal. I have a son. He's 16 now, but when he was 12, he was traveling alone to visit his father in Atlanta. He's black, obviously, and he's big for his age, was even then. A flight attendant accused him of being aggressive because he asked for a second soda. Asked, politely, but she saw a big black boy and decided he was threatening. They removed him from the flight. Marcus felt his hands clench. What happened? I had to drive 8 hours to get him because they wouldn't put him on another flight that day. He didn't fly alone again until he was 15, and even then he had panic attacks before boarding. So when Linda called me last night and told me what happened to Tyler, I canceled everything to be here. Because your son deserves better. My son deserved better. Every black child who's ever been seen as a threat just for existing deserves better. Did you ever get justice for your son? No, I got a corporate apology letter and a refund. That's it. No investigation, no accountability, nothing. That's why I do this work now, so other parents can get the justice I never got. Marcus extended his hand. Thank you for being here, and I'm sorry about your son. Don't be sorry. Be relentless. Because you have something I didn't have. You have power resources and a platform. Use them. Force the change. Don't let them wait until you're tired and then go back to business as usual. I won't. That's a promise. Dr. Carter smiled. Good. Now go check on your boy. I'll handle the corporate side. Marcus drove back to the hospital, his mind racing with everything that had just happened. Real change. Actual accountability. A protocol named after his son that might save other children. It felt surreal. When he walked into Tyler's room, he found his mother there sitting beside the bed holding Tyler's hand and crying quietly. Helen Morrison was 68, with silver hair and eyes exactly like Tyler's, like Joe's had been. Mom, Marcus said softly. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. They broke his leg, Marcus. They broke my baby's leg. Marcus moved to her side and pulled her into a hug. I know, Mama, I know, but he's okay. He's going to be okay. Tyler looked at both of them, his expression worried. Don't cry, Grandma. It doesn't hurt that much anymore. Helen laughed through her tears and kissed Tyler's hand. You're so brave, baby, just like your grandfather. Dad says we're making cookies next week, at your house, all of us together. That's right, and we're making extra, a whole mountain of cookies. Dr. Patel knocked and entered chart in hand. Good morning, everyone. Tyler, how are you feeling today? Okay, my leg is sore, but I can wiggle my toes. That's great. Let me do a quick exam. Dr. Patel checked Tyler's circulation reflexes and pain response. Everything looks good. The fracture is stable, swelling is manageable. I think we can send you home today with pain medication and instructions for care. You'll need to stay off that leg for at least 6 weeks, and we'll do a follow-up x-ray in 2 weeks. I can go home. Tyler's face brightened. "You can go home, but Tyler, no basketball for a while." Tyler looked down at the ball on his bedside table. "That's okay. I have other things to do." After Dr. Patel left, Marcus sat on the edge of Tyler's bed. "Ty, I need to ask you something. The CEO of Mesa Airlines, the company that owns the plane you were on, he wants to come apologize to you in person. He wants to tell you what they're doing to make sure this doesn't happen to other kids. But you don't have to meet him if you don't want to. This is your choice." Tyler thought about it for a long moment. "Will the lady who grabbed me be there?" "No. She doesn't work for the airline anymore. It would just be him and me and Grandma if you want her there." "What if I get scared?" "Then we stop the meeting immediately and he leaves. You're in control, buddy. Always." Tyler looked at his grandmother, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay," Tyler said finally. "I'll meet him, but I want to ask him questions." "Like what?" "Like how come nobody stopped her before she hurt me, and what if other flight attendants are mean, and how will kids know it's safe now?" Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. His 9-year-old son asking the exact questions that corporate executives should have asked themselves years ago. Those are perfect questions, Ty, and he better have good answers. Helen stayed with Tyler while Marcus stepped into the hallway to call Thomas Brennan. "Mr. Morrison," Brennan answered immediately. "Tyler agreed to meet you, but he has conditions. He wants to ask questions, real questions, and he wants honest answers. Not corporate speak, not platitudes. Honest answers that a 9-year-old can understand. Can you do that?" "Yes, absolutely. When and where? Not at a hospital, not at an office. Somewhere Tyler feels safe. Give me a day to figure out where." "Whatever he needs. And Mr. Morrison, thank you for giving me the chance to try to make this right." Marcus hung up and stood in the hospital hallway, surrounded by the sounds of beeping monitors and hushed conversations, and felt the weight of the last 24 hours finally settle onto his shoulders. His son was hurt, but healing. The woman who hurt him was fired. The airline was implementing real change. A scholarship program would help other kids achieve dreams they didn't know they could have. And somewhere, Marcus hoped his father-in-law was watching and nodding approval. But none of it would bring back Tyler's innocence. None of it would erase the moment when his son learned that being polite and following rules didn't always protect you. That sometimes the world hurt you anyway, and the only thing you could do was survive it and fight like hell to make sure the next kid had it better. Marcus pulled out his phone and texted Jennifer. "Set up a meeting with media relations. It's time to tell Tyler's story publicly. On our terms, in our words. And Jennifer, find me the best child therapist in the state. Tyler's going to need help processing this. Already on it. Both things. Marcus, you're doing good. Really good." Marcus wasn't sure he believed that. Good fathers protected their children. Good fathers kept them safe. But maybe that wasn't possible anymore. Maybe the best he could do was teach Tyler how to survive an unfair world and then change the world so the next generation didn't have to. Back in Tyler's room, Helen was reading to him from a book about space exploration that Tyler had brought for the plane ride he never got to finish. Marcus stood in the doorway watching them, grandmother and grandson, their heads bent together, finding comfort in words and presence. Tyler looked up and saw him. "Dad, when we go home, can we watch a movie together? All 3 of us." "Absolutely. Whatever you want." "Can we watch the one about the guy who builds the flying machine? Grandpa Joe always liked that one." "Perfect choice, buddy." Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Angela Rodriguez, the nurse from the plane. "Mr. Morrison, I heard through hospital channels that Tyler is being discharged today. I wanted you to know that I filed a formal witness statement with airport police and FAA. Whatever you need from me, I'm here. That boy deserves justice." Marcus showed the text to Helen, who smiled through fresh tears. "The world needs more Angelas," she said. "The world needs more people who speak up when it matters," Marcus replied, "and fewer people who stay quiet to protect themselves." Tyler looked between them. "Is that why you're fighting so hard, Dad? So people won't stay quiet?" Marcus sat beside his son. "I'm fighting so that people like Angela don't have to be the only ones speaking up. I'm fighting so that when something wrong happens, the system itself says, 'That's not okay,' and fixes it." I'm fighting so you and every other kid can fly safely and be treated with respect, not because you have a father in the industry, but because you're a human being who deserves it. That's a lot of fighting. It is. But you know what? You started it. When you called me yesterday and told me what happened, you started this whole thing. You spoke up. You didn't stay silent. You did the hardest thing. You asked for help. And because you did that, we can change things for other kids. Tyler absorbed this, his young face serious. Good. I don't want other kids to be scared like I was. They won't be, Ty, not if I have anything to say about it. As the afternoon wore on, nurses came and went, discharge papers were signed, and finally Tyler was dressed in his own clothes again, his leg in its bright blue cast, his grandfather's basketball tucked under his arm, and his hand firmly holding his father's as they walked out of the hospital together. The sun was bright after 2 days of fluorescent lights. Tyler squinted and smiled. It feels good to be outside. It does, Marcus agreed. Helen had gone ahead to pull the car around. Marcus and Tyler stood on the sidewalk waiting, and for just a moment, they were just a father and son connected by blood and love, and the unspoken promise that they would face whatever came next together. Dad, Tyler said quietly. Yeah, buddy. I'm glad you're my dad. Marcus felt his eyes burn for the 3rd time that day. I'm glad you're my son, Ty. So glad. Helen pulled up, and they helped Tyler into the back seat, securing his leg carefully. As Marcus slid into the passenger seat and they pulled away from the hospital, he allowed himself one moment of relief. Tyler was safe. Tyler was home. And the fight to make sure no other child went through what he went through was just beginning. But for now, for this moment, they were together, and that was enough. 3 days after coming home from the hospital, Tyler sat at the kitchen table with his leg propped up on a chair, doing homework that his teacher had emailed over. Helen was at the stove making her famous chicken soup, the kind that smelled like comfort and childhood. Marcus was on his laptop at the other end of the table, reviewing the public apology Mesa Airlines had drafted. It was terrible. We regret the unfortunate incident involving a minor passenger and have taken appropriate corrective action to ensure such misunderstandings do not occur in the future. Marcus read it 3 times, each time feeling his blood pressure rise. Unfortunate incident. Misunderstanding. The words were designed to minimize, to deflect, to avoid any real admission of wrongdoing. He picked up his phone and called Thomas Brennan directly. Mr. Morrison. Brennan answered. This apology is garbage. Silence on the other end, then a heavy sigh. I was afraid you'd say that. Our legal team drafted it. They're worried about liability exposure if we admit fault too explicitly. Your legal team is worried about lawsuits. I'm worried about my son reading corporate doublespeak that tells him what happened to him was just a misunderstanding. Do you see the problem here? I do. Can you give me an hour? Let me rewrite this myself without the lawyers sanitizing every word. 1 hour. And Thomas, when you rewrite it, imagine you're talking to Tyler directly, because he's going to read it. Marcus hung up and looked at his son, who was watching him with those 2 old eyes that children get when they've learned that adults don't always tell the truth. Was that about me? Tyler asked. It was about making sure the airline says the right thing when they apologize, not lawyer words, real words. What's the difference? Marcus set his laptop aside and moved to sit across from Tyler. Lawyer words try to make bad things sound less bad so the company doesn't get in trouble. Real words admit what happened and take responsibility. Which one do you think matters more? Tyler thought about it. Real words. Because lawyer words sound like they're lying even when they're not. Exactly. And you deserve real words. Helen turned from the stove. That boy is too smart for his own good, gets it from his grandfather. And from you, Grandma, Tyler said, smiling. Marcus's phone rang. Jennifer. Marcus, we have a problem. Someone leaked the story to the press. Channel 7 just called asking for a statement about Tyler's injury in Mesa Airlines. They have the video. Marcus felt his stomach drop. How did they get the video? Unknown, Could have been airport security, could have been a passenger, could have been someone at Mesa trying to get ahead of the story. But it's out there now, and they're running it on the 6 o'clock news tonight. Marcus looked at the clock. 4:37. Less than 90 minutes before Tyler's face, Tyler's pain, Tyler's worst moment became public property. I need to tell him. I'm sorry, Marcus. Do you want me to prepare a statement? Yes, but keep it simple. Confirm what happened. Confirm we're working with Mesa on systemic changes and emphasize that our focus is on Tyler's recovery and making sure this never happens to another child. Nothing about lawsuits, nothing inflammatory. Got it. I'll have it ready in 30 minutes. Marcus hung up and looked at Tyler, who was watching him with growing concern. Dad, what's wrong? Buddy, I need to tell you something. The video from the airplane, the one that shows what happened to you, someone gave it to the news. They're going to show it on TV tonight. Tyler's face went pale. Everyone's going to see it. A lot of people, yeah. I'm sorry. I wanted to control how your story got told, but someone made that choice for us. Will kids at school see it? Marcus hadn't thought about that. Tyler's school, his friends, the parents in their community. They would all see Tyler fall, hear him scream, watch him be humiliated on television. Maybe, probably. But Ty, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. Anyone who sees that video will know you didn't do anything wrong. They'll see exactly what we saw a flight attendant abusing her power. Tyler's hands were shaking. I don't want everyone to see me cry. Helen came over and sat beside Tyler, wrapping her arm around his shoulders. Baby, there's no shame in crying when you're hurt. Anyone who says different isn't worth listening to. But what if kids make fun of me? Marcus felt a white-hot rage at the person who leaked the video, whoever they were. They'd stolen Tyler's privacy, his agency, his right to decide when and how to share his trauma. If anyone makes fun of you, they answer to me, Marcus said firmly. And to your principal and to their parents. This isn't a joke, Tyler. This is serious, and people need to treat it seriously. Tyler nodded slowly, but Marcus could see the fear in his eyes. 9 years old and already learning that trauma becomes entertainment, that pain becomes content, that the worst moments of your life can be consumed by strangers over dinner. Can we watch something else instead? Tyler asked quietly. When the news is on, I don't want to see it again. Absolutely. We'll watch whatever you want. But Marcus knew he had to watch it, had to see how they framed the story, what details they emphasized, whether they protected Tyler's identity or turned him into a headline. At 5:45, after Tyler was settled in the living room, watching a movie with Helen, Marcus went into his study and turned on Channel 7. The news anchor was a woman in her 50s, professionally concerned expression already in place. Tonight at 6, exclusive video of an incident on a Mesa Airlines flight that left a 9-year-old boy with a broken leg. Was it an accident or something more sinister? We'll show you the disturbing footage and talk to witnesses who say this child was targeted. Marcus's phone immediately started buzzing. Texts from colleagues, friends, other parents from Tyler's school. Everyone asking if that was Tyler, if he was okay, what they could do to help. He silenced the phone and waited. At 6 o'clock sharp, the news began. The anchor appeared, her expression grave. Good evening, I'm Patricia Dawson. We begin tonight with a troubling story that raises serious questions about how airlines treat young passengers, especially children of color. They showed the video. Marcus watched his son stand up, reach for the basketball, get grabbed, fall, break. Heard the crack again, the scream again. They'd blurred Tyler's face, thank God, but his voice was clear. My ball! Where's my ball? Patricia's voiceover continued. The child in this video is 9-year-old Tyler Morrison, son of Marcus Morrison, Chief Operations Officer at Horizon Airways. Tyler was flying alone to visit his grandmother when this incident occurred. The flight attendant involved, Jessica Hartwell, has been with Mesa Airlines for 22 years. They cut to an interview with Robert Sullivan, the retired judge who'd witnessed everything. I've been practicing law for 40 years. Robert said, his voice steady but angry. What I saw on that plane was assault, clear, unambiguous assault. That flight attendant grabbed that child with excessive force and directly caused his injury. And the most disturbing part was her immediate attempt to blame the victim. This wasn't an accident. This was an adult abusing her authority over a child who had no power to defend himself. The segment continued with interviews from other passengers, including Angela Rodriguez. Tyler was polite, calm, respectful, Angela said. He showed his boarding pass, he followed instructions, he did everything right, and she still grabbed him. I keep thinking, what if I hadn't been there? What if no one had seen? Would they have just covered this up and blamed a 9-year-old for his own broken leg? Then came the kicker. Patricia looked directly into the camera. Channel 7 has learned that Jessica Hartwell has had 14 complaints filed against her in the last 3 years, complaints that were dismissed or minimized by Mesa Airlines. We reached out to Mesa for comment. They provided this statement. Thomas Brennan appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like his office, his expression serious. What happened to Tyler Morrison should never have happened. It represents a catastrophic failure of our systems, our training, and our responsibility to protect vulnerable passengers. Jessica Hartwell has been terminated. The employees who failed to properly investigate complaints against her are under review. And we are implementing comprehensive changes to ensure this never happens again. He paused, and Marcus realized with surprise that Brennan looked genuinely remorseful, not corporate remorseful, but human remorseful. I have grandchildren around Tyler's age, Brennan continued, and when I watched the video of what happened to him, I felt sick. Not as a CEO worried about liability, but as a grandfather horrified that any child could be treated this way. We failed Tyler Morrison, we failed his family, and we failed every passenger who ever filed a complaint that we dismissed. I can't undo what happened, but I can promise that Mesa Airlines will be different going forward. That starts with the Tyler Protocol, a comprehensive set of reforms designed by experts and implemented across all our operations. And it continues with a commitment to transparency, accountability, and putting passenger safety above corporate convenience. Patricia came back on screen. Mesa Airlines has also announced a $10 million scholarship fund for children of color pursuing aviation careers named in honor of Tyler Morrison's late grandfather. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. The segment ended. Marcus sat in silence processing what he'd just seen. Brennan had gone off script, way off script. That wasn't the sanitized corporate apology legal had drafted. That was real. His phone rang. Brennan. Did you watch? Brennan asked. I did. I didn't clear that with legal. I probably just cost myself millions in any potential lawsuit. But I couldn't do it, Marcus. I couldn't sit there and read corporate speak when a child is hurting, so I said what I actually felt. That took courage. No, it took being a human being. Courage is what Tyler showed when he called you from that hospital stretcher. I'm just trying to deserve the second chance you're giving us. Marcus heard noise from the living room. He walked out to find Helen and Tyler standing at the doorway, both of them having clearly heard the TV from his study. You weren't supposed to watch that, Marcus said gently. I know, Tyler said, but I heard it. Did they really name a scholarship after Grandpa Joe? They did. Tyler looked down at his cast, at the signatures his grandmother had drawn on it that morning, flowers and stars, and one perfect basketball. Grandpa would like that. He always said education was freedom. He did say that. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. The man on TV, the CEO man, he seemed sad. Like really sad, not pretend sad. I think he was really sad, Ty. Is he the one who wants to meet me? Yes. Tyler thought about it for a long moment. Okay, I'll meet him, but not at a restaurant or anything fancy. Can we meet at the park? The one with the big trees where Grandpa used to take me? Marcus felt his throat tighten. That park where Joe had taught Tyler to dribble a basketball, where they'd spent countless Sunday afternoons just being together. It was perfect. That's a great idea, buddy. I'll set it up. Over the next 2 days, Marcus's phone didn't stop. Media requests, interview offers, speaking invitations. Everyone wanted to talk about Tyler, about Mesa Airlines, about systemic discrimination in aviation. Marcus declined most of them, but he accepted an interview with a respected journalist who'd been covering civil rights issues for 30 years. The interview took place at their home, Tyler sitting beside Marcus on the couch, Helen in a chair nearby. The journalist, a black woman named Carol Williams, had kind eyes and a gentle demeanor that immediately put Tyler at ease. "Tyler," Carol said, "first, how are you feeling? How's your leg?" "It hurts sometimes, but it's getting better. I can wiggle all my toes now." "That's wonderful. Can you tell me what happened on the plane in your own words whenever you're ready?" Tyler looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Then Tyler told the story simply and clearly, without drama or embellishment. Just the facts, the way a 9-year-old understood them. "I had my grandpa's basketball. It was special because he died, and it's all I have from him. The flight attendant said I had to check it, and I was going to, but then she grabbed me really hard and I fell. I tried to be good. I did everything my dad taught me, but it didn't matter." Carol's expression was gentle but serious. "Do you think she grabbed you because of the basketball or because of something else?" Tyler was quiet for a moment. "My dad says some people see black kids and think we're bad even when we're not. I don't know if that's why she grabbed me, but it felt like she decided I was bad before I even did anything. That must have been scary." "It was, but I knew my dad would come. He always comes." Carol turned to Marcus. "You work in the aviation industry. Was it harder or easier for you to fight this because of your position?" "Both," Marcus said honestly. "Easier because I know the systems, I know the people, I have resources that most parents don't have. Harder because I was supposed to know better. I was supposed to know the risks, and I still sent my son out there alone." "You can't protect him from everything." "No, but I can make the world safer for him. That's what the Tyler Protocol is about. Not just protecting my son, but creating a system where every child is protected, regardless of who their parents are or what position they hold." "What do you want people to take away from Tyler's story?" Marcus looked at his son, at this brave, brilliant boy who'd somehow maintained his dignity through all of this. "I want people to understand that this wasn't an isolated incident. This was the inevitable result of systems that protect bad actors and dismiss complaints. Jessica Hartwell had 14 complaints. 14 chances to be stopped before she hurt my son. And she wasn't stopped because the system valued avoiding liability over protecting passengers. That has to change. And Tyler's story is a catalyst for that change, but only if we actually follow through. Only if we don't let this moment fade when the next news cycle starts." Carol nodded, then turned back to Tyler. "What do you want to be when you grow up, Tyler?" Tyler smiled a real smile for the first time since the interview started. "I want to design airplanes, like make them better and safer. And I want to play basketball, but I don't know if I can do both." "I bet you can do both," Carol said. "You're already making aviation safer, and you're only 9. After the interview wrapped, Carol stood and shook Marcus's hand. "That boy is special. Really special. You're raising him right." "I'm trying. Some days I don't know if it's enough." "It's enough. Trust me. I've interviewed hundreds of people over my career. Tyler has something rare empathy combined with courage. Don't let the world take that from him." The day of the meeting with Thomas Brennan arrived warm and clear. Marcus drove Tyler and Helen to Riverside Park, the place where Joe had spent so many afternoons teaching his great-grandson about basketball and life. They arrived early, finding a picnic table under a massive oak tree that had been Joe's favorite. Tyler sat on the bench, his casted leg extended his grandfather's basketball in his lap. He was nervous. Marcus could tell his fingers tracing the signature over and over. "You don't have to do this," Marcus said for the 10th time. "I know, but I want to. I want to ask my questions." At exactly 3 o'clock, a black sedan pulled into the parking lot. Thomas Brennan got out alone as Marcus had requested and walked toward them. He was in his 60s, white with gray hair and a face that carried the weight of responsibility and, right now, genuine regret. He stopped a few feet from the table. "Tyler," he said quietly, "I'm Thomas Brennan. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." Tyler nodded, but didn't speak. Brennan looked at Marcus. "May I sit?" "Ask Tyler. This is his meeting." Brennan turned back to Tyler. "May I sit down?" "Yes, sir." Brennan sat across from Tyler, his movements careful, like he was approaching something fragile. Tyler, I want to start by saying I'm sorry. Not as the CEO of Mesa Airlines, though I am sorry for that too. But as a grandfather, as a human being, I'm sorry you were hurt. I'm sorry you were scared. And I'm sorry that adults who should have protected you failed you. Tyler listened, his expression unreadable. I'm sorry too, Brennan continued, that you're only 9 years old and you already had to learn that the world isn't always fair, that doing the right thing doesn't always protect you, and that adults don't always deserve your trust. You should have had more time before you learned those lessons. I already knew that stuff, Tyler said quietly. My mom died when I was little. I knew the world wasn't fair. Brennan's expression crumbled slightly. I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's okay. She's been gone a long time. But I learned that bad things happen even when you're good. Dad says that's why we have to make systems better, so when bad things happen, people fix them instead of hiding them. Your dad is right, and that's what we're trying to do now. Tyler, can I tell you what we're changing? Tyler nodded. Brennan pulled out a folder and opened it, but he didn't read from it like a corporate presentation. He spoke directly to Tyler like one person talking to another. Every single person who works on our planes, every flight attendant, every pilot, every gate agent is going to go through new training. Not online videos, real training where they practice what to do when passengers are scared or upset. They're going to learn about their own biases, the thoughts they have that maybe they don't even know they have about people who look different from them. Will it work? Tyler asked. I hope so. But Tyler, I'm not going to lie to you. Some people won't want to change. Some people will resist. But the difference now is that we're watching. Your dad is watching. The new passenger board is watching. And if someone acts like Jessica Hartwell acted, they won't get 14 chances. They'll get one chance and then they're gone. Tyler absorbed this, then asked the question he'd been saving. Why did nobody stop her before she hurt me? Other people complained about her. Why didn't anyone listen? Brennan took a deep breath. Because the people whose job it was to listen decided it was easier to protect the employee than to protect the passengers. They thought maybe these complaints are exaggerated. Maybe these passengers are being too sensitive. Maybe it's easier to just give everyone a little training and move on. They made the wrong choice, and you paid the price for it. Are those people still working there? No. They've been removed from positions where they can make those kinds of decisions. Good. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Tyler asked one more question. Do you have kids? I have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. 2 of my grandchildren are about your age. Would you let them fly on your planes now after you knew what happened to me? Brennan looked Tyler directly in the eye. Honestly, before all this happened, I would have said yes without thinking about it. Now, after seeing what our failures did to you, I wouldn't let them fly until I was absolutely sure we'd fixed everything. Which is why I'm committing every resource we have to making sure we fix everything. Not because of lawsuits or bad publicity, but because I want my grandchildren to fly safely. And they deserve the same safety as every other child. Tyler nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. I believe you. You could have said nice things that weren't true, but you told me the truth even when it was hard. My Grandpa Joe always said truth is harder than lies, but worth more. Your grandpa was a smart man. He was the best, Tyler said simply. Brennan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Tyler, I brought you something. You don't have to take it if you don't want to, but I thought maybe it might mean something. He opened the box. Inside was a pin gold and detailed shaped like an airplane with wings spread wide. This is a pilot's wings pin from the first plane I ever flew on when I was about your age. My grandfather gave it to me and told me to dream big. I've carried it for 50 years. And I'd like you to have it not as an apology because a pin doesn't fix a broken leg, but as a promise. A promise that I'll spend the rest of my career making sure kids like you can dream big without being afraid. Tyler looked at the pin, then at his dad. Marcus nodded. Tyler took the box carefully. Thank you. I'll keep it safe. Thank you for meeting with me, Tyler. You're braver than most adults I know. After Brennan left, Tyler sat quietly holding the pin in one hand and his grandfather's basketball in the other. "Dad," he said after a while. "Yeah, buddy." I think he meant it, what he said. "I think so too. But I'm still going to watch, to make sure he keeps his promises." Marcus smiled, pulling his son close. "That's my boy. Trust but verify." Helen wiped tears from her eyes. "Joe would be so proud of you, baby. So proud." As they drove home, the late afternoon sun painting everything gold, Marcus realized that something had shifted. Tyler was still hurt, still healing, still processing trauma that no child should have to process. But he was also strong, stronger than Marcus had realized, strong enough to face the person who represented the company that hurt him, strong enough to ask hard questions, strong enough to accept an apology while still holding people accountable. Joe had taught Tyler to shoot for the stars. Marcus was teaching him to change the systems that tried to keep him grounded, and together they were building something that might just last long enough to protect the next generation of dreamers. 6 weeks after the incident, Tyler walked into Dr. Patel's office without crutches for the first time. His leg was still weak, still tender, but the cast was finally coming off. Marcus sat beside him in the examination room, watching his son's face cycle through nervousness and excitement. "All right, Tyler," Dr. Patel said, wheeling over the cast saw. "This is going to be loud, but it won't hurt. Ready?" Tyler nodded, gripping the edges of the examination table. The saw whirred to life, and within minutes, the blue cast fell away in 2 pieces. Tyler's leg looked pale and thin, compared to the other one, the skin flaky and strange. "It looks weird," Tyler said. "It's going to look weird for a while," Dr. Patel assured him. "But the bone healed beautifully. You'll need physical therapy to rebuild strength, but Tyler, you're going to be fine. Better than fine." "Can I play basketball?" "Not yet, but in a few months with proper PT and gradual conditioning, yes. You'll play basketball again." Tyler looked at his father, and Marcus saw relief flood his son's face. For 6 weeks, Tyler had been brave and patient and hadn't complained once. But Marcus knew the fear had been there lurking underneath. The fear that Jessica Hartwell hadn't just broken his leg, but had broken his future too. "We'll get you the best physical therapist in the state," Marcus promised. "Can it be someone who played basketball? I want someone who understands." Done. That afternoon, Marcus took Tyler to his first physical therapy session. The therapist was a former college player named James Crawford, a black man in his 30s who'd torn his ACL twice and rebuilt his career from scratch both times. James knelt down to Tyler's level immediately. "So, you're the young man everyone's talking about. Tyler Morrison, the kid who changed aviation." Tyler blushed. "I didn't do that much." "You did more than most people do in a lifetime, and you're only 9. Now let's talk about this leg. How bad do you want to play ball again?" "Really bad." "Good. Because this is going to be hard work. It's going to hurt sometimes. You're going to want to quit, but I'm going to be here every step and we're going to get you back on that court. Deal?" Tyler stuck out his hand. "Deal." Marcus watched them shake, watched his son connect with someone who understood not just the physical injury, but the emotional weight of having your body betray you through no fault of your own. Over the next 3 weeks, Tyler went to physical therapy 3 times a week. Each session left him exhausted but determined. Marcus would find him some nights in his room doing the exercises James had assigned, pushing through pain with gritted teeth and tears he tried to hide. "You don't have to hide it when it hurts," Marcus said one evening, finding Tyler mid-exercise with tears streaming down his face. "I'm not crying because it hurts," Tyler said. "I'm crying because I'm scared it won't work. What if I can't play like I used to? What if I'm different now?" Marcus sat on the floor beside his son. "You are different now, Ty. You're stronger. Not your leg will get strong again. But you, your heart, your courage, that's what's different. And that's what makes you a better player than you were before." "How?" "Because basketball isn't just about physical ability. It's about resilience, determination, mental toughness. And you've spent 6 weeks learning those things in ways most players never have to. So when you get back on that court, you won't just be playing. You'll be proving something to yourself." Tyler wiped his eyes. What am I proving? That you don't let the hard things break you, you let them build you. Meanwhile, the Tyler protocol was being implemented across Mesa Airlines and Horizon Airways. Marcus received weekly reports from Dr. Simone Carter about the training sessions. Not all of them went smoothly. We had a flight attendant walk out of implicit bias training today, Dr. Carter told him during a video call. She said we were calling her racist, and she didn't have to listen to this. What happened? We documented her refusal to complete mandatory training and terminated her employment. But Marcus, she's not going to be the last. Some people are going to resist this change with everything they have. Let them. As long as we have the courage to follow through with consequences, they'll either adapt or leave. Either way, passengers are safer. But Marcus knew the real test would come when the first incident occurred under the new protocol. When a flight attendant faced a difficult situation with a minor passenger and had to choose between the old way of intimidation and control versus the new way of de-escalation and empathy. That test came 3 months after Tyler's injury. Marcus was in a board meeting when his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. He normally wouldn't answer, but something made him step out and take the call. Mr. Morrison, this is Captain Angela Chen with Horizon Flight 492. We just had an incident with an unaccompanied minor, and I wanted to call you directly per the new escalation protocol. Marcus's heart rate spiked. What happened? A 13-year-old girl traveling alone was being verbally aggressive with our flight attendant after being told she needed to check her carry-on bag. The flight attendant felt the situation was escalating, so she called me. I came back and assessed. The girl wasn't being aggressive. She was having a panic attack. Turns out she has anxiety disorder, and the bag contains her medication and comfort items. The previous flight attendant had told her she could keep it, and now she was being told something different. She wasn't being difficult. She was scared. What did you do? I applied the de-escalation training, lowered my voice, got down to her eye level, asked what she needed to feel safe. We found a compromise. The bag goes overhead right above her seat where she can see it, and I personally assured her we'd get it down immediately upon landing. She's calm now. But Mr. Morrison, under the old system, we probably would have removed her from the flight, would have blamed her for being difficult, and we would have traumatized a child with a diagnosed anxiety disorder. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling relief wash through him. You did exactly right, Captain Chen. Thank you for calling. Thank you for making the protocol. It gave me the tools to handle this differently. I just wanted you to know it's working. After the call ended, Marcus stood in the hallway for a moment, letting himself feel the weight of what had just happened. The Tyler protocol hadn't just prevented another Tyler. It had given a flight crew the framework to see a child's fear instead of just their behavior, to respond with empathy instead of authority. It was working. That evening, Marcus told Tyler about the call. So the girl was okay, Tyler asked. She was okay, because the pilot knew how to help instead of just how to punish. Good. I'm glad. Tyler paused. Dad, can I tell you something? Always. I've been having bad dreams. About the plane, about falling. Sometimes I wake up and my leg hurts even though the doctor says it's healed. Marcus pulled Tyler close. That's called trauma, buddy. What happened to you wasn't just physical. It hurt your mind and your heart too. And those hurts take longer to heal than bones. How do I make them heal? Talking about them helps. Therapy helps. Time helps. And knowing you're not alone helps. Do you want to talk to someone, a therapist who specializes in helping kids process scary experiences? Tyler was quiet for a moment. Will they think I'm weak? They'll think you're brave, because asking for help when you're hurting is one of the bravest things a person can do. Okay, I'll try it. Marcus set up sessions with Dr. Rachel Kim, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma recovery. Tyler was reluctant at first, quiet and guarded, but Dr. Kim had a gentle way of drawing him out. After Tyler's 4th session, Dr. Kim asked to speak with Marcus privately. Tyler is processing a lot more than just the physical injury, she said. He's dealing with the loss of innocence, the realization that authority figures can hurt you, and survivor's guilt. Survivor's guilt, He didn't die. No, but he survived something other kids might not have survived, might not have had the resources or support to fight back against. He's reading about the changes being made, the Tyler Protocol, the scholarship fund. And part of him feels guilty that it took him getting hurt for these changes to happen. He's wondering why the 12-year-old girl Jessica Hartwell accused of theft didn't get justice, why the 14-year-old boy didn't get a protocol named after him. And Marcus felt like he'd been punched. I never thought about that. Tyler is incredibly empathetic. He carries other people's pain alongside his own. It's a beautiful quality, but it's also a heavy burden for a 9-year-old. We're working on helping him understand that he can care about those other kids without carrying their trauma as his own. What can I do? Keep doing what you're doing. Be honest. Be present. Let him see that making change doesn't require him to be perfect or to sacrifice his own healing. And Marcus, consider therapy for yourself too. You're carrying a lot of guilt that isn't yours to carry. Marcus didn't take that advice right away. He was too busy implementing changes, monitoring protocols, ensuring the reforms stuck. But 3 weeks later, after a particularly difficult day where he'd had to testify in a deposition about Tyler's injury, he found himself sitting in Dr. Kim's office during a time slot she'd somehow kept open. "I keep replaying it," he told her. "All the decisions I made that led to Tyler being on that plane alone. What if I'd flown with him? What if I'd driven him to LA instead? What if I'd chosen a different airline? What if Jessica Hartwell had been stopped after her first complaint?" Dr. Kim countered gently. "What if Mesa's HR department had done their job? What if the system had worked the way it was supposed to?" Marcus, you can what-if yourself into paralysis, or you can recognize that you did everything a reasonable parent would do. Tyler was prepared, the airline was reputable, the flight was routine. You couldn't have predicted this. "But I knew the risks. I've seen how black passengers are treated." "And you also knew Tyler needed to learn independence, needed to visit his grandmother, needed to grow. You can't protect him from every possible harm without also preventing every possible growth." Marcus knew she was right, but knowing and feeling were different things. 4 months after the injury, Tyler returned to his school's basketball team. His coach, a man who'd played professionally overseas, had been patient, letting Tyler rebuild his strength and confidence gradually. Tyler's first game back, Marcus sat in the bleachers with Helen, both of them tense with anticipation and fear. Tyler came off the bench in the second quarter, and Marcus watched his son's face cycle through nervousness, determination, and finally joy. Tyler was rusty, no question. His timing was off, his stamina limited. But he was playing, really playing. And in the fourth quarter, with his team down by 2 points, Tyler got the ball at the top of the key, drove left, and hit a layup that tied the game. The gym erupted. Helen grabbed Marcus's hand and squeezed so hard his bones hurt. Tyler ran back on defense with the biggest smile Marcus had seen in months. They lost the game in overtime, but Tyler didn't care. After the final buzzer, he ran to Marcus and Helen, sweaty and exhausted and beaming. "I did it, Dad. I did it." "You did, buddy. I'm so proud of you." That night, Tyler fell asleep with his grandfather's basketball tucked under his arm and Thomas Brennan's pilot wings pin on his nightstand. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching him, feeling the weight of the last 4 months settle into something that wasn't quite closure, but was close enough. 6 months after the incident, the Regional Airline Association held its annual conference in Chicago. Marcus had been invited as the keynote speaker. He almost declined, still uncomfortable with the attention, but Linda Park convinced him. "Your story matters," she'd said. "Not for you, but for every parent who needs to know someone fought this fight and won." So Marcus stood on stage in front of 800 aviation industry professionals and told Tyler's story. Not the sanitized version, not the corporate version, but the real version. The fear, the rage, the helplessness, and ultimately, the change. "My son was hurt because systems failed," Marcus said, his voice carrying through the conference hall. Jessica Hartwell was a symptom, not the disease. The disease was a culture that protected bad actors, dismissed complaints, and treated passengers, especially vulnerable passengers, as problems to manage rather than people to protect. He clicked to the next slide showing the key components of the Tyler Protocol. These reforms aren't revolutionary. They're basic humanity codified into policy, de-escalation instead of confrontation, empathy instead of authority, accountability instead of protection. The fact that we needed a 9-year-old to break his leg before we implemented these things should shame all of us. The room was silent. But shame without action is useless, Marcus continued. So I'm asking you, everyone in this room, to look at your own airlines, your own policies, your own complaint systems. Ask yourself, how many Jessica Hartwells do we have? How many complaints have we dismissed? How many passengers have we failed? He paused, looking out at faces that ranged from uncomfortable to inspired. And then do something about it, not because it's good PR, not because you're afraid of lawsuits, but because children deserve to fly safely. Because parents deserve to trust you with their most precious cargo, because the next Tyler Morrison shouldn't have to break a bone to break a system. The applause started slowly, then built. Marcus stepped off the stage to a standing ovation he didn't feel he deserved. Afterward, dozens of people approached him. Some were executives promising to implement similar protocols. Others were flight attendants thanking him for giving them better tools. But the conversation that stuck with him was with a young black woman, maybe 25, who waited until everyone else had dispersed. "Mr. Morrison," she said quietly, "I was the 12-year-old Jessica Hartwell accused of stealing. I saw the news coverage, and I needed to tell you thank you. Not just for Tyler, but for me, for finally making someone listen." Marcus felt his throat close. "I'm sorry no one listened when it happened to you." "I'm not sorry anymore, because you turned Tyler's pain into purpose, and that purpose is protecting kids like I was. That matters more than an apology ever could." She walked away, and Marcus stood in the empty conference hall feeling the full weight of responsibility and hope. 1 year after the incident, Marcus and Tyler returned to Riverside Park. It was a warm Sunday afternoon, and Tyler was dribbling his grandfather's basketball with a confidence that had taken 12 months to rebuild. "Do you ever think about her?" Tyler asked suddenly. "The flight attendant lady?" Marcus sat on the picnic bench. "Sometimes. Do you—" "Yeah, I wonder if she's sorry. Like really sorry, or just sorry she got caught?" "I don't know, Ty. I hope she's sorry. I hope she learned something. But ultimately, her story isn't ours to carry. We can't control whether she changes, only whether we do." Tyler dribbled in silence for a moment, then asked, "Dad, do you think Grandpa Joe would be proud of what we did?" Marcus smiled, feeling the ache of missing a man he'd loved deeply. "I think Grandpa Joe is looking down right now, watching you dribble that ball with your healed leg, seeing the scholarship fund that will help dozens of kids achieve dreams they didn't know they could have, knowing that airlines are safer because you were brave enough to speak up." "Yeah, Ty, I think he's proud. I know I am." Tyler shot the ball, and it swished through the chain-link net. He caught it and shot again and again, finding a rhythm that looked like joy. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Carter. "The Tyler Protocol is now being adopted by 4 major airlines and 12 regional carriers. We just got confirmation. You changed the industry, Marcus. You and Tyler." He looked up at his son, this remarkable boy, who'd turned trauma into transformation, who'd faced the people who hurt him with grace and courage, who'd somehow emerged from the worst day of his life with his heart still open and his spirit still strong. "Hey, Ty," Marcus called out. "Come here for a second." Tyler jogged over basketball under his arm. "What's up?" 4 more airlines just adopted the Tyler Protocol. That means thousands of kids flying every single day are going to be safer because of you. Tyler absorbed this information, his face serious. "That's good, really good," he paused. "But Dad, it's not just because of me. It's because of you fighting, and Grandma supporting us, and Angela staying with me, and that judge speaking up, and Dr. Carter making the training. It's because people decided to care." Marcus pulled his son into a hug. "When did you get so wise?" "I had good teachers," Tyler said, squeezing back. As they drove home that evening, the sun setting behind them, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Tyler fell asleep in the back seat, his head against the window, his grandfather's basketball secure in his lap. Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror and felt something settle in his chest. Not closure, because trauma doesn't close neatly. Not victory, because there were still airlines that hadn't changed, still flight attendants who resisted training, still children who would face discrimination despite their best efforts. But something close to peace, because they'd taken the worst moment of Tyler's young life and refused to let it be meaningless. They'd transformed pain into policy trauma, into training victimhood, into advocacy. Jessica Hartwell had broken Tyler's leg, but she hadn't broken his spirit. She'd tried to make him small, but he'd grown larger. She'd tried to silence him, but he'd become a voice for thousands of children who'd never had one. And 15 minutes after she'd hurt him, his father had arrived and everything had changed. Not just for Tyler, but for every child who would fly safer because one 9-year-old boy had been brave enough to call for help, and one father had been fierce enough to answer that call with action instead of just comfort. The world was still broken in 1,000 ways, but in this one small corner of it, in the policies of airlines and the training of crews and the safety of children, they'd built something better. They'd built it on the foundation of a grandfather's love, a father's determination, and a boy's unshakable courage. And that Marcus thought as he pulled into their driveway as Tyler stirred awake and smiled sleepily at him, that was legacy enough for any lifetime.